What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Life After Lockup Season 5, Episode 42, Save the Drama for Your Mama. Let's talk about Teeny and Rob. So last week, we saw the altercation between Tenny and her mother-in-law. So Tenny had planned this welcome home party for Rob, invited a whole bunch of people, but only 3 people showed up, which was Tenny's mom, Rob's mom, and one of Tenny's friends. That was it. Nobody else came. So it seemed like when Rob's mother showed up, she kind of showed up with an agenda. She wanted to confront her son and talk to her son about why he has been so distant from her and maybe also distant from other family members. So while they're sitting there, she asks her son, "What's been going on? How come you don't call me? You don't reach out to me?" Rob says to his mother, "I was, locked up for 16 years. I'm just trying to get acclimated to life on the outside. So no hard feelings, nothing personal. I'm just trying to get my footing." So as they're having their conversation, the mother says something like, "Well, Tenny's not always going to be around, but I'm your mom and I'm always going to be here for you." Now, I don't know what Tenny had to do with the fact that her son was not reaching out to her. I know in the mother's mind, she's probably thinking because he lives with Tenny and her children, they're taking up all of his time and attention, and that's why he's not connecting with me or anybody else in the family. And maybe that's her rationale of why her son isn't reaching out to her. But he's an adult. He's a grown man. If he wanted to talk to his mother, he would reach out to his mother. He would not let anybody stand in the way of that. So I don't know why the mother felt the need to bring Tenny into the conversation when she really wanted Tenny out of the conversation. Because when Tenny was like, "Wait a minute, why do you think that I will no longer be here? Why would you say that?" And then the mom got upset and she was like, "I can say whatever I want. Can I just, express my thoughts and ideas?" And then she goes, "Anyway, I'm just trying to have a conversation with my son." So then she dismisses Tenny. She brings her up in the conversation, which I felt like had nothing to do with her. But then when Tanny speaks up about something that, she took offense to, she wants her out of the conversation. So then she's like, "Anyway, I'm just trying to have a conversation with my son." So as they're talking, of course, Tanny felt heated that the mother was so dismissive of her. So then she's like, "Well, I'm going to get up and get something to drink." So as she's walking away, the mother's like, "Okay, fine, bye, have a good day." So Tanny then pivots around and she gets in her mother-in-law's face and she bends down because the mother-in-law was sitting down. Tanny is standing up, right? So Tenny pivots around and she gets in her mother-in-law's face and she's like, "What is your problem with me?" So when she did that, of course, the mother-in-law gets up so they can be, face to face, toe to toe. And Rob automatically stood up to get in between them because he knew that once his mom stood up, it was about to go down. So Rob gets up. He's standing in between the two women. Tenny reaches over around Rob and she's able to push her mother-in-law in the face. And that's what got it on and popping. So because there was furniture there was a table there, Rob and his mom topple over. And so this week we saw the rest of the fight. So when Rob and his mom toppled over, Tenny was still standing and she's like standing over them and she's grabbing onto her mother-in-law's leg. And I think maybe the mother-in-law was trying to kick her. So maybe that's why Tenny was grabbing onto her leg. I don't know, but Tenny was hanging on to her mother-in-law's leg. Eventually the fight ends and the two women go their separate way. Now Tenny goes off to the inside of the building and she's hyperventilating and her daughter had seen everything go down. So her daughter went after her to make sure she was okay. And, Tenny was having a hard time breathing and her daughter was trying to calm her down and whatnot. The mother-in-law, she's trying to leave. She's like, "You know what? I'm through. I'm done. I'm out of here. Get out of my face." So she's on her way to her car to the parking lot. And as she's walking towards her car, she's saying a whole lot of things about Tenny. She's saying that Tenny is just money hungry, using her son for money, that she called her a fat ass. And I'm like, Tenny's anything but fat. Tenny has a really cute figure. She's feisty. She started the fight, but she ain't fat. So the mother-in-law is saying all these horrible things about Tenny as she's driving away. So she gets in her car and she, is out of there. So later on in her confessional, Tenny tells us how she can deal with verbal altercations. She just can't deal with physical altercations. And I'm like, excuse me. What, ma'am? What did you just say? Because you started that fight. You got in that woman's face. Because, first of all, when the mother in law said, "Well, Tenny won't always be here for you, but I'll always be here because I'm your mother." When the mother in law said that, Tenny should have just kept it, just zipped it up. Don't even, because I felt like the mom said that that comment was directed towards Tenny. She was talking to her son, but that comment was directed towards Tenny, letting Tenny know, you know what, you're not always going to be around. Okay, you're not always going to be around. I'm always going to be here for him. So I'm the one that's most loyal to him or whatever. So that comment was directed towards Tenny. Now, I understand that the mother in law was trying to get under her skin by making that comment, because she's talking to her son about, why haven't you called me? Why aren't you reaching out to me? How come there's no contact between us since you've been out of prison? But then she brings up Tenny. Like, what does Tenny have to do with your son not talking to you? So her anger is really directed towards Tenny. So I understand how that would have gotten under Tenny's skin, but Tenny really should have just taken the higher road and not said anything at all. So that was mistake number one, her interrupting that conversation. Then when she got up to get a drink and the mom said, okay, bye, goodbye, whatever. When the mother-in-law said that, she just should have kept walking towards her drink instead of, whipping herself around and getting in the mother-in-law's face. So the mother was baiting her with words. And then, Tenny rose up to the occasion and she responded with her hands. Um, I don't have an issue with Tenny. I like Tenny. I think the mom is somewhat problematic in a whole bunch of different ways. But Tenny, you started the fight. So when you're talking about how I don't do physical altercation, I can do verbal, but I don't do, girl, you started that fight. So later on, Tanny and Rob are in their bedroom and they're talking about what happened. And Rob was like, I got to look at you kind of funny because I can't believe you did all that. So Rob was kind of like also blaming Tanny for starting the fight. Now, Tanny was trying to defend herself and say, why did your mom say things like that? She's always coming in with really bad energy. She's got it in for me. She's always, picking and poking at me. Understood. And so now that you know how the mom is, you know what her MO is, how she's trying to bait you all the time with her words. Now that you know this, you need to just act accordingly and not allow her to bait you and not allow her to get you out of your character. Because now you know that's what her motive is, that's what her intent is, to make you look crazy and unhinged. So I don't know if Tenny learned her lesson with her mother-in-law to not allow these words to get her all worked up. I have no idea. So Tenny tells Rob, I know that's your mom and there's always going to be some type of loyalty there, but maybe you just shouldn't invite her to anything anymore if I'm going to be there. So what else did they talk about? Rob tells us that his mom makes him feel like, his mom is trying to make him feel guilty. I guess when Rob was in prison, he was making a lot of money gambling, right? And all the money that he was making was going, I guess, to Tanny and her children, or the majority of his money. I don't know. So the mother felt like, you should have done more for your actual family and I guess his other children. I'm assuming he has other kids. So the mother always felt like Rob was shortchanging everybody else and putting Tanny on a pedestal and giving Tenny and her children priority when it came to financial support. So the mother feels like, you owe me. I'm your mother. I raised you. You need to break me off a little something, something. Not always, giving money to Tenny. And we saw this in Love during lockup when Tenny and her mother-in-law had met up at that restaurant. And the mother had made a comment how Tenny was driving a really nice car due to Rob sending her money, I guess. And the mom either had no car or she had like a busted up car. So she was, always comparing herself to Tenny on how much better Rob was treating Tenny than her. Like, like I said, sometimes it's like there's this competition between the mother and the daughter-in-law. And it's like it happens a lot where they both are like fighting for this man's attention, fighting for his love, fighting for his money. There's always like this tension between some daughter-in-laws and their mother-in-laws, like heavy, heavy tension. So anyway, Rob says that, his mom is making him feel guilty, like he's not doing enough for her, even though she raised him, so on and so forth. And he does admit that ever since he came out of prison, the relationship between him and his mom has definitely changed. He says that his family, they want so much from him, but they couldn't even show up for the welcome home party. Only his mom was there. So moving on from there, Tanny and her kids, they go to a water park. She has a conversation with her daughter about the incident. Obviously, the daughter was very much on her mother's side, defending her mother. Now their daughter feels some type of way towards her step grandmother, Rob's mom. Now she doesn't like her anymore. She doesn't want to forgive her. I mean, and I understand where the girl is coming from. You saw someone, to her, it looked like, her mom is being attacked. And so now the way she feels about her step grandmother has completely shifted. Little boy is like, hey, can we just all get along? So when the two kids are talking to each other about it, when Tinny's two children are talking to each other about it, the daughter tells her little brother, yeah, I don't think I want to have anything to do anymore with Rob's mom. But as far as Rob himself, the kids love him. They're happy that he's home with them. They're having a great time with him. And so I want to know what's going on between Rob and does he have other children? And if he does, what's going on there? I'm interested in that. So let's move on to Justine and Michael. So Justine and Michael, they're talking about permanent sterilization and which one is going to get it, which is, to me, this conversation is so juvenile. When it's like, no, you're going to get snipped. No, you're going to get snipped. It's just so juvenile. Michael, he's, I don't know, like a very mature man who really understands biology and science and wants to educate himself will know it's not that big of a deal to get a vasectomy. They're not removing body parts. Okay, they're not going to take off your body parts. There's nothing that's being cut off or detached from you. They're just going to rework or rewire your inner plumbing. That's all that is. And so anyway, so he doesn't want to get a vasectomy. She wants him to get a vasectomy. And it came to a point where the conversation to me seemed like she wants him to get a vasectomy because it's proof for her or reassurance for her that he will never have children with anybody else. Because he said something like, well, if it's meant for me to have a kid at 75, I'm going to have a kid at 75. And then Justine says, well, who the hell are you having a kid with at 75? Because it for sure as hell won't be me. And so in a way, it's kind of like, I don't know if she was trying to use the vasectomy as a way for Michael to prove to her that he will never be with another woman. So why would he want to have, because they've decided that between the two of them, they don't want any more children. So why does he want to keep that option open for him to have future children? If it's not with her, then it's going to be with somebody else. And I don't know if she wants him to have the vasectomy to prove to her that he will never be with another woman. I didn't understand that. But Michael tells her, well, when you have the baby, you're already going to be on the operating table or whatever, and they're going to be able to tie your tubes right then and there. So why not you get? They both had valid points. It's not a big deal for a man to get a vasectomy, but also it's probably a little bit more convenient for her to get her tubes tied because she's already going to be, laid up on the table with her innards exposed, and the doctors, all they have to do is go in and snip snip. So they're both making good points. At this point, y'all need to just toss a coin. Just toss a damn coin and figure it out that way. So Michael tells us, because he's on his way to work. The next time that we see Michael, he's driving to work. He has like a regular 9 to 5. He works he's a manager of a moving company. So he tells us the reason why he had to get a 9 to 5 was because one of the terms of his parole is that he had to be on paper. He had to have a job that gave him a W-2. He had to have a W-2 type of job. That's the only reason why he's doing a 9 to 5. Otherwise, he'll still be chasing his dreams of being, a rapper. The next Jay-Z, the next Eminem, the next Little Weezy, whatever. So he would still be, doing that if it wasn't for the fact that, according to his parole, he has to get a 9 to 5. So we see Christine. She's out and about with her baby, and she gets a call from her son, and her son is begging her to come home because something happened at the house. So both her and Michael end up rushing home together because I guess Justine's son called her, Michael's son called him. So they both end up arriving at the same time at the house. By the way, their house in Vegas is really nice. It's a very nice house. Um, Love After Lockup money must be hella good because that house is nice. So they get to the house, and the two boys, the two stepbrothers, were fighting. And just regular teenage stepbrother stuff. So they're fighting. Someone threw a phone. I think it was Justine's son. He threw his own $1,500 phone or $1,300 phone. The phone cracked, or shattered. Really, the phone shattered. So both Justine and Michael have to get into disciplinary mode, and they're disciplining their sons, telling them that y'all need to get along, etc., etc. Then Michael proceeds to punch a hole in the closet door. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of an example is that for your children who are already misbehaving, who are already exhibiting signs of aggression because Justine's son threw his own phone and shattered it? Okay. I don't know if the boys got into a physical fight or what. Like, what is, like, why are you doing that, Michael? Why are you punching holes in doors and walls and whatnot? I didn't understand why he did that. That was a very poor example that he was showing to the boys. But this is just regular growing pains. They're stepbrothers. Everybody's trying to get used to living under the same roof. But you couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me to live in a house with that many kids. Moving on to Bianca and Daniel. So when we see them, Bianca's still, going on and on and on, complaining about the fact that Daniel did not get this damn cup of coffee because he made breakfast and then she wanted a cup of coffee and she wanted him to get up and make her a cup of coffee. And he was like, no, you do it yourself. And so she took this as him being very unappreciative of all the things that she's done for him. Her moving across the country for him, getting an apartment for them to live together in, et cetera, et cetera. That one little act of him not getting a cup of coffee, even though he cooked breakfast for her, that one little act of him not getting the coffee, she was all kinds of unhinged. Like, oh my God, I did so much for you. You can even give me a cup of coffee. Absolutely immature and wrong. So as time goes on, like I said last week, the more I see Bianca, the more she's becoming very bothersome. And I need Daniel to run away from her. I need Daniel to run far, far, far away from her because this isn't going to work. So he has a visit for his with his parole officer, and the whole thing is he wants to know if he can live with Bianca in this apartment instead of having to go to a halfway house. Now Daniel is struggling with addiction issues, right? So the parole officer finally says that yes, you can live with Bianca, but within the next month or so someone's going to come out and do a home investigation or a home check or whatever. So he's able to live with Bianca. Beautiful. So they're on their way home from the parole officer visit, and he wants her to stop by and pick up a plan B because, the night before they got down and dirty, no protection. So she's like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, yeah, I do think so. You need to get a plan B and you need to consider getting on birth control. And she's like, well, what's wrong with us having a baby? And he's like, what are you talking? Everything is wrong with us having a baby. He has to pay back a whole bunch of restitution. He has a child, has a 13-year-old son that he doesn't have a relationship with, but I think he's still financially obligated to pay support for that child. So he's got child support obligations for his son. He's struggling with addiction. He's trying to get himself back together again. He's trying to rebuild his life. He is not in a position right now to have a baby. And Bianca is in La La Land where she thinks it's really cute, it's really adorable, and plus it's going to feed the emptiness that she has within her because she lost a child. So in her previous relationship ended up having a miscarriage, and all she says this ever since that happened, the only thing that she can think of is having a baby. That's all she can think of is having a baby. And so she really wants this child. And she doesn't care if he's ready or not ready. She could care less. She doesn't really care. And she's just like, well, there's nothing wrong with us having a baby. It's okay for us to have a baby. And it's not, and then he's like, I'm not ready for a baby right now. And she's like, silly. It's not going to happen right now. It's going to take 9 months. Daniel, run. Run far away. Far, far away. And I would not entrust your fertility with her. And I would not, the possibility of having a baby, I would not put that all on her. In other words, she might tell you that she's taking her birth control or that she's getting her shots or whatever the hell. I wouldn't trust her, Daniel. I wouldn't trust her. Time to pull out the prophylactics. Moving on to Brittany and K-Rock. So Brittany and K-Rock, I'm struggling with Brittany and K-Rock. I'm really struggling with them because I'm not understanding how they had made such huge plans and made big financial decisions before they even knew whether or not they could move to Texas. Like, I'm not understanding how this is happening. So they got the word that Texas did not approve their transfer or whatever the hell. Like, they cannot do their parole reporting in Texas. So they're going to have to stay in a government hotel because they have nowhere to go. The lease at the house they were living in with K-Rock's mom is up. It's gone. It's expired. They have nowhere to go. So they're going to have to stay in this, dingy motel. Now, K-Rock has not told his mother yet. So the mom is back at the house getting things ready for the move. She's all packed up, ready to go. So when Brittany and K-Rock go to the house, this is when they decide to tell her last possible minute that they're not going to be able to move to Texas. The mom was obviously pissed off. Um, I don't understand how you could make this kind of a mistake. Like, I don't have much to say other than Brittany and K-Rock are acting like, dodo birds. I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't understand how you plan something like this. Not only that, but you have other people involved because the whole family is moving to Texas. And you were not even sure whether or not the move was approved. Like, I just don't understand. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. If the mother wanted to knock K-Rock's head right off his shoulder, I'd have to be in support of that. Moving on to Melissa and Louis. Y'all, I do not want to talk about Melissa and Louis. I have zero interest in Melissa and Louis. Zero interest. Louis has been out 18 months. They're living together. He's working at a pizzeria, which was like Melissa's worst nightmare, was Louis working in a damn pizzeria because she thinks that he could do so much more. He's got so much more potential than working in a damn pizzeria. But he's also a personal trainer. It's hard for him to get work because of his record. So when we see them, they're taking a polar plunge, which is, taking a dive or a dip into frigid water. So they do that, whatever. Now they're on their way back home and they're talking about their future. Melissa wants to get married. She's waiting for an engagement ring. And Louis like, hold your horses. I'm going to do this at my own damn time. He really is planning on proposing to her. He saved like $10,000 to $12,000, which he plans to spend all of that on a ring because Melissa wants a 2-carat ring. He wants to spend $10,000 to $12,000 on a ring. And these are people that I feel like they live paycheck to paycheck. They're like, normal, average American citizens, where if one of them loses their job, it's going to be a financial strain for them. He's going to spend $10,000 to $12,000. Well, let's hope that he's not going to do that. Let's hope that he's really not going to do that. Let's just hope that that's just talk to make their segment interesting, and that he's really going to spend maybe a couple of thou on a damn ring. But 10 to 12,000, your whole entire savings on a ring. Who's going to pay for the wedding? How are you going to pay for the wedding? So he tells his mom. His mom, of course, is really mad. So this is another situation where we have a mother and a daughter-in-law who are fighting for, the man. They're fighting for him. They're jealous of each other. When it seems like he's picking one side over the other, when it seems like he's closer to one than the other, it's the same story as um Tenny and Rob's mom. So I have no interest in Melissa and Louis. Louis, if you want to spend your whole entire savings on a ring for Melissa, go at it. Who cares? Moving on to Troy and Zaria. So after arguing about the fact that Zaria was withholding important information from Troy, which is the fact that their nonprofit is 2 months behind on rent, Troy gets upset and he storms out. And he's trying to make it look like he's going back to the streets, okay, to make some quick money so they can pay for this rent. But he's not. He's just meeting up with his BFF. So his BFF drops by and he just needed someone to vent to. And then the friend takes him back home. And then Zariah apologizes to Troy about not telling him that she was, 2 months behind on rent for the nonprofit, and now everything is fine. The segment with Troy and Zariah to me is always so forced. It's so forced and contrived and concocted. It's not natural. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel real. Just like with I hate to say it, but just like with Melissa and Louis, their scenes also to me are very contrived. But it's whatever. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it on your way out. Please don't forget to rate this video if you like this content. Subscribe to my channel. I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.